Extra, extra! UnicornStorm has some brand new first impressions on this here journalism game. Read all about it.
Or, I guess, watch or listen. Hey there, Gammerinos and Gammerinas. It's Rady, and today I'm taking a look at Cantaloupe Chronicle. This is a graphic adventure game in where you are an intern at a newspaper in a small town, a really small town. Every day you need to write an article for the paper, and alongside you investigate an old, never-solved murder case that has been cold for a long while. The game actually starts with that mystery to hook you in, though it does so in a somewhat clumsy way. It's presented as a kind of flashback. The protagonist writes her last article as a farewell to her readership and mentions the murder case and all the mysteries and secrets around it. But then we only go back in time for about 1 or 2 weeks. Surely not enough time to roll up a whole murder investigation and uncover a deep-rooted conspiracy. Well, on day 2 we learn that the murder happened years ago. The paper reported on it, the police ran out of leads, and so the investigation came to a halt. And all we get now are little pieces of information here and there that don't really lead to anything. Maybe there will be something actually substantial in the end, but the opening narration doesn't really raise my hopes on that. It's also a bit weird what kind of information has been unknown either to the paper or the authorities, or both up until now. The only item found with the murder victim was news to the investigative reporter of that case, and the owner of the property next to where the victim was found, and surely a suspect at the time, just forgot to tell the police about some unusual findings 1 day after being questioned. Yeah, the writing is quite weak in a lot of places. Mostly bland dialogue, aforementioned ridiculousness, but also some ridiculous characters or situations. And not ridiculous as in hilarious situations you know and love from most comedic adventure games, but more so hard to believe story moments. Because you see, the game is going for a rather grounded, subdued style, with relatable, normal characters you have relatable, normal conversations with. Which doesn't really fit the style of a game where you decorate a woman's drying rack with Christmas lights in exchange for the nylon wire, where you poison a police officer with rotten sushi, or where you organize a protest in about an hour to get the mayor to declare a piece of town a historic site on the spot. You're going around sticking your nose in everyone's business, cheat the townspeople out of their belongings, and solve long-standing problems of the community and change their way of life each and every day. So these lame-ass conversations with next to no depth, aside from maybe 1 or 2 characters, just don't do it for me. It either had to lean into the hilarity more, with absurd characters, a lot more jokes and sarcasm, like in the good old days, or it had to commit to a fully serious approach, not necessarily devoid of humor or some friendly banter, but designed like an actual journalism game, with deep and complex and rich dialogues, with branching paths, with questions to ask and clues to present, like a detective game.
About the argument, Miss Goleta made a statement.
You're counting on the girl? You think her testimony is going to stand up in court?
You're going to the gas chamber.
Daily Chronicle leans hard into the investigative aspect of journalism, which only makes sense considering its setting. But it is a bit abstract in its mechanics and, to be fair, goes for a completely different style of game. I still want this to stay a traditional graphic adventure game. A better comparison would be the Thimbleweed Park spin-off sequel, maybe? Dolores, where you revisit the town of Thimbleweed Park and help out at the local paper as a photographer. So you have to solve a lot of clever point-and-click adventure puzzles and snap the right photos to complete your assignments for each day. This is an example of a game that leans into the silliness. Every character is a caricature. Dialogues are full of jokes, and the things you need to do are often absurd, and even when they're not, they're still pretty silly. Pretty silly are a lot of the things you need to do in Cantaloupe Chronicle as well, but those are the more outrageous tasks, like the Christmas tree scheme or swapping bottle labels to sell some root beer as actual beer to an old fisherman. But the rest is pretty mundane stuff, like buying water for someone who's thirsty. Not coming up with a scheme to get a special drink to them. Just plainly buy water at a rest stop. With your unlimited funds. You print and copy flyers for a guy, just at the office, without collecting silly clip-outs and pictures and stuff. You just write a few lines yourself and copy it and hand it to the lady at the rest stop, and it gets automatically handed out to all the townspeople. I mean, it's realistic and down to earth, and yet the results are still ridiculous. It just doesn't match. I began just going through the motions, not really caring for most of the dialogue. Which is unfortunate because when it comes to the backstory and the whole world building, there is some really decent stuff in here. They did put some effort into it, and when the writing shows some soul, it's actually rather entertaining. Again, the game should have gone all out with the conversations, really focus on it, and have the inventory puzzles just as some spice here and there. By which I mean to the same degree as it is right now. The game is a bit shallow. Some puzzles require just a sliver of moon logic, or want you to remember a single random interaction from like the start of the game, but it's mostly just walking back and forth, collecting single items and delivering them to often the final destination before you wrap up the article for the day. Which would be fine if the conversation system was deeper. Don't get me wrong, the puzzles aren't bad, just, well, mostly bland. With some interesting exceptions here and there. I guess it's fun for a casual game, but on the other hand, this game costs 10 euros, whereas Dolores, which isn't any deeper but features way more interesting dialogues, is a free game. The game goes for this textureless, flat-shaded 3D style, which makes it appear so much cheaper than a pixel art game. Just compare those two. Many areas are empty and bland. I mean, yeah, this takes place in the desert, but still. And the low detail objects don't help in that regard. There are also a lot of either broken or unfinished or maybe just missing animations. Like when you get out of bed, or when someone steps out the door, or there's some jittering when you are walking at a brisk pace. It just comes off as cheap. And it doesn't have to be. When the game wants to, it can look really nice and detailed and interesting. There just needs to be more of this. The whole game feels half finished. Some areas look really nice, others really rushed and bland. Some of the writing is really captivating, most of it boring and bland. It has technical hiccups, mostly tied to the characters moving around, like the pathfinding that sometimes goes haywire or the animations. It works, I had no real problems, but there's a noticeable lack of polish here. Like how selecting continue doesn't really load your most recent save, but, as it seems, the last autosave which is created at the start of the day. Or how the screen is just a bit too much zoomed in for my comfort, so I tend to easily misclick when trying to quickly move somewhere specific. On the other hand, the game offers a lot of adventure game quality of life features. From the start you have access to a hint system, contextualized through your cell phone, with which you can call your fortune-telling mother, that always tells you what next to do, though in a slightly vague way, as to not destroy any challenge completely. Little there is. You can also select any of the available townspeople through your notebook and read up on past conversations and even see if anyone has anything new to say. The latter lowers the already casual difficulty even more, but it's still a nice alternative to walking back and forth, revisiting every NPC over and over again after every major interaction. Another neat example of contextualization is how you travel to different locations. Whenever you need to go somewhere, you just hop into your truck and select the destination from some highway exit signs. All the puzzles you solve each day reward you with research items for your article. These always consist of an introduction, a piece of background info, a catch, and a conclusion. You also need to take a photo related to the topic, which will then automatically be added to your news article once you're done. To actually write your article, you have to return to the office and use the computer. There you need to select all the required research items, and then you can reorder them if you want, and even insert some custom paragraphs, though depending on the article, you sometimes reach the character limit with just the required text blocks alone. It's just for flavor though, because you get to see the finished article the next morning and can even share it on Steam if you want to. So it doesn't really matter gameplay wise. A fun little feature and certainly a nice conclusion to each assignment, but here again, more could have been done, more should have been done. Have many different text blocks in each category, maybe some with wrong or missing information, and have the townspeople react to the quality of your article. So yeah, another nice idea held back by half-baked execution. As a very casual game, this could certainly be fun, and there is some good writing in there, here and there. But if you want a more substantive graphic adventure game or a deeper exploration of journalism as a game mechanic, well, you won't find it here. And with that, I'm off. I wish you the greatest of days. This has been Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.
In a half-cut coated penny nut, in a half-cut Mr. Streezle. In a half-cut coated penny nut, in a half-cut Mr. Streezle.